I have 7 movie recommendations that will make you shudder, want to look away, cry your eyes out, or just generally bring on a feeling of great discomfort. In my opinion, these are all movies that you see once and you never forget. These titles range from dramas that don't feature any gore but are more psychologically disturbing or uncomfortable, right through to things that are more graphic and unsettling. As always, please add anything down below that you feel fits in this list. You guys have such great recommendations and I really appreciate them. First up is a Lithuanian film called Toxic. This is one of the best things I have seen this year. I am obsessed with this film. It's familiar yet totally original, simple and sparse in its visual style, yet utterly captivating. Dreaming of an escape from the bleakness of their hometown, 2 teens form a unique bond at a local modeling school where the promise of a better life pushes girls to violate their bodies in increasingly extreme ways. It's a very uncomfortable watch considering it's dealing with minors that are just doing a lot of things and engaging in a lot of activities that they just shouldn't be. So it kind of feels akin to how you feel when you watch Harmony Korine's Kids. Toxic draws on the darkness of the female experience specifically here, which is its own brand of hell. This is put on display in a very gritty and raw, disturbing yet extremely relatable way that had me nodding and feeling connected to the characters quite deeply. As always, I don't want to say too much, especially considering this film is quite small. Maybe you haven't heard of it and I don't want to spoil it for you, but there were lots of moments in this where I was really clenching because I thought that something was going to happen. And although some of those things didn't actually come to fruition, there were definitely other things in this film that were just really uncomfortable, really hard to kind of sit through and watch. What I liked about Toxic is that it always comes back to the cruelty of females to themselves and to each other. However they got there, that depends, but it's definitely very, very much focused on the female experience. But I do think that this is something that anyone who likes these kind of films could enjoy. I would say if you are interested in the sound of Sofia Coppola and Harmony Korine getting together and directing a movie about girlhood in a poor Lithuanian community, then you will definitely enjoy Toxic. I will also mention that if you are specifically interested in cinematography, you are someone who really appreciates the composition of shots and how people get creative with camera angles, then you will definitely get something out of Toxic. Every frame here was blowing my mind. I thought they did so much with so little. It was simple yet impactful and really spoke to the bleakness of the setting in Lithuania. I was super impressed with Toxic. Definitely give it a watch. Next up is the 2011 film The Skin I Live In. This has been on my watch list for so long and I just haven't got around to it, but I watched it this week. Very uncomfortable. This one really irked me and made me shudder, like in the true sense of the word. I felt shudders go through my arms, like down into like the bones of my hands in some scenes. It just really freaked me out, especially the surgical scenes. The Skin I Live In is a Spanish language film that tells the story of a brilliant plastic surgeon who creates a synthetic skin that withstands any kind of damage. His guinea pig is a mysterious and volatile woman who holds the key to his obsession. I kind of thought that I might have had this figured out just from the logline and seeing the trailer, but it really keeps adding on to the story here and just surprising you and going places that you don't expect. I do feel that I'm somewhat still processing this film from a narrative perspective. So if anyone can shed any light on sort of like the deeper meanings or the allegories that are going on here in the film, I would really appreciate that. It flips around quite a bit timeline wise, so you really have to engage and follow what's going on. I really liked this. I felt super engaged the entire time, but overall with the meaning, I'm just not 100% sure here. In saying that though, I still very much enjoyed Skin I Live In. It felt like a very authentic piece of cinema from the director. And I think that we see this a lot in foreign films where, they are very, very true and they're kind of like sticking to their guns. This one ranks pretty high on the uncomfortability scale for me. I feel very icky towards like any kind of like procedures and like medical things. So this one was very hard to watch. There are also other things going on too here. We have, suicide, There is, sexual abuse, there's kidnapping, just it runs the whole gamut, but it never feels like it's doing it to just shock you, I don't think, because of the way it's been put together, the way it's filmed is beautiful, the performances, it's a real work of art. I'm just struggling to kind of understand all of it. Next up, we have Birth. Now, I love Jonathan Glazer as a director, but I had yet to see Birth until recently. This one was missing. It is a very strange and unique story. As a courtesy, I am going to include spoilers here in this part of talking about Birth because it's really hard to talk about the film without kind of giving it away, although the logline does completely give this film away. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend going in as blind as you can because it's just a much better experience, I would imagine. I had some idea of what it was about before I saw it, and I kind of wish that I hadn't. I will say that this one is disturbing in a totally non-graphic way. There are no like really big harrowing scenes. There's no like blood and guts or anything like that. It's all very much just psychological and probably more uncomfortable because it's very taboo. Anna is recovering from the death of her husband, and the film follows her 10 years on, finally ready to marry and embark on a new relationship, until Sean, a little boy, shows up and says he is her husband reincarnated. This is a wild logline. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about Birth overall, but I do know that the performances were amazing. Nicole Kidman is great here, and she actually looks like Nicole Kidman, so that's nice. The boy, he was amazing too. He was very convincing, and this is a very difficult role for a child to understand and play. On one hand, I was deeply affected by Birth, and it had me looking inward, asking, what would I do if I was presented with this? If somebody that I loved had passed away and then they were apparently showing up in the form of a small child wanting to be with me. I mean, it's such a wild concept. It sort of gets so ridiculous that it makes you want to laugh, but at the same time, it kind of felt like a daytime, like TV movie almost, but then not completely because the cinematography is absolutely stunning, which, isn't anything new for Jonathan Glazer directing a film. And then, of course, the amazing performances and like the way that it's put together. It's a real work of art, but I just struggled with the concept, I guess. I think Birth really challenges its viewers in the same way Leon the Professional would challenge you. We have this relationship between an older person and a younger person. It does make me think what the movie would be like, Birth, if the gender roles were reversed. It just makes you uncomfortable to see certain scenes, namely the bathtub scene with Nicole Kidman and the little boy. This one just felt so like wrong, hard to watch, hard to digest. But then you keep reminding yourself of like what she's going through, the whole kind of situation and how this is like impacting the family and grief and loss. So there was a lot here. It was just a very unique, very unusual film. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend, but I hope that you haven't got this far because now you know everything. So if you have seen it, please comment below and let me know, like, how did you perceive the film? Did it make you uncomfortable? And how do you think it fits into Jonathan Glazer's filmography overall? Because this one felt very different to, Sexy Beast or like Under the Skin or The Zone of Interest. Moving on to the 2019 film Swallow. Hunter, a newly pregnant housewife, finds herself increasingly compelled to consume dangerous objects. As her husband and his family tighten their control over her life, she must confront the dark secret behind her new obsession. I watched this one when I was pregnant, which maybe is not advisable, and it definitely got under my skin. It's showcasing some really deeply disturbing behavior that can 100% make you feel very queasy, even just thinking about this film and, rewatching the trailer to kind of like refresh my mind. I was like, oh God. The condition that the main character Hunter is struggling with is called pica, and it is real because I stumbled across it when I was, doing different kind of like research or going down rabbit holes online when I was pregnant. And I can confirm that like when you are pregnant, you do get like weird cravings for food, and being pregnant is a real horror story in itself without dealing with the urge to ingest objects around the house. So It felt like a real kind of horror story to me. Swallow is stunningly beautiful and very stylish in its world building of this family and their home. It was very well executed and I think could have gone down another road of being very Netflix. So I'm genuinely impressed with how they handled a very difficult topic to tackle, and it didn't feel like it was just being brought up or thrown in there to shock you. I also liked the way it explored the gender roles in a time where a woman is quite vulnerable, and obviously the husband is very emotionally unintelligent and just detached, and the impact that this has on his wife. I think the way she looked and carried herself and, you know, all of these scenes of her being in the home, the loneliness, this like trapped yearning feeling that she has was very reminiscent of a Rosemary's Baby or a Repulsion kind of female character, which I just love and I'm always here for. In terms of uncomfortability, I don't know if that's actually a word, but it is for this video. It's the ingesting of the objects and watching someone, you know, become obsessed with doing that. And then obviously how that's like, you know, impacting a pregnant woman. Like I said, it's very horrifying. Explaining it kind of seems like, why would anyone want to watch that? But Swallow was really, really great. It definitely stuck with me. Highly recommend. If you have a strong stomach, that is. Sometimes movies make you feel uncomfortable from a physical standpoint, you know, seeing disturbing acts or things that just, you know, really get under your skin and make you feel really gross. Manchester by the Sea is uncomfortable to watch from an emotional point of view. The whole time I was watching this film, I felt like I was trapped in the lives of these people and the tragedy that they were having to like relive and go over. So Manchester by the Sea is an uncomfortable watch because of, you know, the premise of it and what it's dealing with, but also just how you feel emotionally. It's just a lot of turmoil to go through with them. After his older brother passes away, Lee Chandler is forced to return home to care for his 16-year-old nephew. There he is compelled to deal with a tragic past that separated him from his family and the community where he was born and raised. This is a rip your heart out, lump in your throat kind of watch to get through. And I think it's for so many reasons. If you've seen it, then you will know and remember it's not really a movie that you forget. I cried kind of, you know, multiple times through this movie. It really takes it out of you emotionally. So only watch it or rewatch it if you are kind of ready for that experience. But I think that what was the most upsetting was seeing the relationship kind of breakdown of Michelle Williams' character and Casey Affleck's character. Both really great performances from both of them here. But seeing how she kind of detached from him when he returns. She doesn't want anything to do with him. Like, she can't even kind of look at him because of what has happened and, you know, transpired, and she's trying to get on with her life. But, you know, how can you really get on with your life when something like this has happened? So there's just a lot going on here, very sort of unfortunate circumstances that are tragic, and a slice of life look at these people who are trying to get through life with just this awful thing that has happened to them. I personally find these types of films harder to get through than the physical kind of disturbing ones. I would love to know what you guys think. You know, if something is very emotionally pressing and really hard to get through, like, it can be quite triggering, and I find that that sticks with me a lot more than like a visual thing that is disturbing. So let me know below what you think. Okay, so I would be very surprised if any of you watching haven't seen American History X, and this one comes up a lot on disturbing lists, you know, movies that are confronting, and I would say that it's probably a classic by now. You know, it's a very revered film. I find that the gutter stomp scene, which you will 100% know about, you might even know about it if you haven't seen the film, because it's so talked about and so referenced when people talk about, you know, those scenes that stick with you, that are really harrowing. And of course, like, it's really, really difficult to watch. You know, even though you don't actually see it, it's more hearing it, and just the notion that someone would do this to someone, and then that's added on to the fact that, you know, there's the racial element of the entire film, obviously. So yes, I agree, that is a very hard to watch scene. But for me, with American History X, it is more so the scene in the grocery store that I find particularly uncomfortable to sit through and hard to watch, and really stuck with me from a physical and emotional level. The way that these group of extremists just bust into this grocery store, there's no rhyme or reason to it other than hate. You know, they don't know these people personally and what they inflict on them in there, how they treat their space, and then namely the way they pour that milky substance over the cash register woman. I just cannot deal with that. It honestly makes me sick to my stomach. It makes me so uncomfortable. Pairing that with what they're saying, it's so humiliating. You know, it's so embarrassing, and it's just so unacceptable. So it makes me angry. It makes me uncomfortable, probably more so than anything else like on this list. And it also feels so real. I think American History X tackles a very difficult subject matter in such a great way because it shows you the journey of someone changing their perspective, and it also shows you how people can be really poisoned by beliefs from a young age, by their own experiences. So it's very nuanced, and it covers kind of like the whole range of that. But that scene in particular, if I think about that movie, that's the scene I think of. And I haven't particularly heard anyone else say that because, like I said, everyone talks about the other scene. But this definitely had to go on the list for me in terms of like movies that make me really uncomfortable. Next up is Blue Valentine, and this one is more uncomfortable to watch in terms of the emotions that are going on and just watching the relationship break down. So in a similar vein to Manchester by the Sea, I would say that Blue Valentine is maybe a little bit easier to watch. And I am a huge fan of this director. I think he is so good at showing you, very real, very authentic portraits of couples, of families, and of people just sort of trying to make their way through life. Dean and Cindy live a quiet life in a modest neighborhood. They appear to have the world at their feet at the outset of the relationship. However, his lack of ambition and her retreat into self-absorption cause potentially irreversible cracks in their marriage. Reading this logline kind of feels like this is what Die My Love wanted to do or was trying to get at but couldn't. And if you saw that film and you weren't impressed with it, like me, I have a review of it if you want to watch it, then Blue Valentine will definitely cleanse the palate if you were hoping to see the breakdown of a marriage and two people kind of go a little bit insane. We flit from past to present in this love story, and that's done really well because it juxtaposes how differently they are with each other and, you know, how things started off and then where we end up. I felt particularly uncomfortable in the motel scene where things maybe seem like they're getting better, they're bonding again, or they're having this time away, and there's perhaps some like physical contact that's going to reconcile things, and that kind of goes wrong. And I think this scene was done so well, and it was extremely well acted too. The rage of Ryan Gosling at points in this film too felt very realistic to like the male experience, whereas, you know, Michelle Williams is kind of just like moseying along trying to get through the day, but then she has, you know, quite an impactful monologue that's really cuts you. It's just sad, you know, it's depressing, but it's very real. And I think it's important that we show more of these types of stories of couples and how people break down. You know, this feels like a very adult film, and I feel like we don't get these, grown up adult films that aren't sensationalized anymore, that just make you go, you know, yes, I can relate to some part of this and I see some part of my life in this maybe. So if you are in the mood for a good character study and you enjoy an emotional kind of roller coaster, definitely recommend Blue Valentine. I hope that you found something on this list that you have either forgotten about or you have never heard of. Please let me know below what you think of these films and if there is anything else that would fit here on this list of just uncomfortable, hard to sit through movies. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, really helps me. And if you enjoy this, you want to see more, make sure you hit subscribe so you can see the new videos that I bring out. I have lots of other lists and reviews on the channel if you want to go and enjoy those. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.